The Unseen Visitor. Chapter 1. The Silent Night. I woke to a chill that seeped through the sheets, my heart pounding as I lay motionless under the darkness of my bedroom's shadowy veil. It was an inordinate silence. Not even the whispering wind outside could pierce the stillness, as if time itself had frozen with me. My breath caught when I noticed my bedroom door, ever so slightly ajar, just enough to hint at something waiting outside. Shivering, I turned over onto my back and buried myself deeper into the warmth of my bed sheets, hoping it was merely a trick of sleep deprivation playing tricks on my mind. But as I listened closely, there was an unsettling quietude, like watching a breath being held in anticipation. As morning approached, the chill didn't dissipate. In fact, it intensified to biting cold, making me wonder if someone had opened the window without notice. Still shrouded by night, with each tick of the clock drawing us closer to dawn, I sensed an inexplicable presence, like a shadow leaning against the door frame that watched over my slumbering form. Its essence was palpable, yet invisible, weaving between dream and reality in a dance only madness could comprehend. It's odd how you often feel something long before you see it. But this particular night was different, as if I'd been awakened by an unseen guest who refused to depart. With shaking fingers, I reached for my phone to light the room, its glow spilling into the dimness like a ghostly hand reaching out from beyond the grave. Shadows retreated at the sudden illumination, casting eerie silhouettes on the walls. I rubbed my tired eyes and turned to face the open door, expecting nothing. But then there was something not quite human in the doorway, standing in the frame with an ethereal aura that made my skin clammy. Tall and imposing, it stood as motionless as a specter, clad in hooded robes billowing like smoke. My heart skittered when I realized its head craned towards me, eyes closed, ears cocked to listen for any signs of life. It wasn't watching, but listening. Those eyes snapped open as if awakened by my breaths, black orbs that seemed to swallow the light in a void within them. The door groaned softly as it stepped into the room. Its form moved with graceless fluidity, the shadowy mass flowing like liquid as it approached me. My voice caught in my throat, and I could not look away, mesmerized by an undeniable allure of dread that pulled me closer to its hooded figure. It reached out a skeletal hand with pale fingers, beckoning me forward without a single gesture. As our eyes locked, an icy draft swept past me like the first breath of winter morning. I should have been paralyzed, yet found myself crossing the room, my bare feet barely making a sound on the cold floor. My hand trembled as it reached out to brush against my shoulder. The touch sent shivers down my spine. When I turned back, it was gone, vanished in a thin air along with the presence that had consumed me since dawn. But not before leaving an indelible mark that whispered this wasn't a dream. I tried convincing myself of just that as the day unraveled in monotony. Classes, homework, all seemed normal despite lingering sensations of being watched and unspoken conversations between my soul and some unseen entity. However, by nightfall when I settled into bed, the door creaked open again, and I could feel it. Watching, waiting. This time, no apparition loomed in the frame, but I knew its presence lingered, an insidious fog seeping from beneath the threshold like a chilling fog that stole my breath. The room grew colder with each tick of the clock, until it seemed as though I slept under a frozen lake. That night, I sought solace by staring at photographs of loved ones on my bedside table, seeking familiarity among smiling faces when I sensed movement again. Not from outside, but within. My gaze darted to the corner where moonlight painted silver across the floor. It was standing over me, its eyes open now like dark voids eating light. As I gasped, it glided closer still, and in the same fluid motion, leaned down for an unblinking stare that saw into my very soul. This time, a whispered name escaped on my lips. Sarah, as if the spirit had taken up residence within my room, watching me with eyes that should not exist. I strained to hear any sound, but was met only by absolute quiet. No creaking floorboards or ticking clock, just unending silence. My voice trembled when I spoke again. "Who are you?" The hooded form remained silent as before, then vanished in a flash of movement, leaving me questioning the veracity of it all. Each night, Sarah returned, watching with an unnerving stillness that made my skin crawl. Yet the days passed, and no one else noticed anything. I felt her presence throughout the house, in corners and shadows, always lurking just beyond perception. It was Sarah, but who or why? One morning, a sheet of paper on my nightstand bore her name scrawled in dark ink. "Come find me." Sarah's handwriting was unmistakable, as if beckoning for a confrontation that could lead to sanity's precipice. Frenzied by this enigmatic dance between sleep and reality, I sought answers. Chapter 2. The Unwanted Guest. The house had grown uneasy since Sarah's apparition. Doors creaked with unspoken conversations. Shadows danced along the walls when no wind blew, and a constant unease tinged each breath. I needed proof it wasn't my fractured mind playing tricks on me or nightmares manifesting into life. At night, I placed a camera near my bed to capture proof. The first flicker of light showed nothing but an empty room, only shadows dancing upon the walls in hues of crimson and blue that seemed alive. Then suddenly Sarah emerged from nothingness. It was as if she had stepped out of the frame itself, yet her eyes remained shut as before. I pointed the camera at her, hoping for a glimpse beyond the veil. But when I checked the memory card in the morning, it was blank. No images captured. The dream, my mind's fabrication. Sarah returned every night with an unnerving calmness that belied any malevolence. Sometimes she'd draw closer still, but never touched me or spoke. I couldn't escape this entity. I had to confront it. My resolve waned at the thought of facing it head-on, especially when daylight hours offered a reprieve from these nocturnal encounters. But Sarah waited for me, standing in shadows as darkness crept back. Her movements were unnerving, sometimes walking towards me and then halting mid-stride, always watching, never looking directly into my eyes. One night she moved closer, her face tilted upward, a profile against the moonlight. A shiver coursed through me. Sarah's lips curled in a knowing smile as she began to glide towards me with every breath I took. My hands found my chest as if seeking protection from what was coming. She reached for me and grasped my wrist, her gaze not flickering beneath heavy eyelids. It was an ethereal touch, cold enough to steal the warmth from my skin. In a flash of moonlight, she leaned in close enough for our cheeks to brush. A whispered breath brushed against my ear. "Don't fear what you can't understand." Then the darkness swallowed her and she vanished. Days passed, yet Sarah's haunting persisted. I started locking myself indoors during daylight hours and braved my room at night, armed with a flashlight. Another night, drenched in moonlight, her eyes were open. We met in an exchange that felt more profound than words could convey before she vanished once again into the shadows. One morning after another, Sarah appeared. Every night, she'd whisper, "Look out," and point to the door. As I opened it, a shadow crept under. Sarah stood on the landing, beckoning. The light caught something else from behind her. An obsidian thing that seemed alive before it retreated up the stairs into darkness. With flashlight in hand, I followed it through the house to a hidden room long sealed away with my grandfather's old photographs and trinkets. An antique mirror hung there, reflecting nothing but darkness until Sarah stepped behind me and whispered, "Your past has awakened." The image shifted. An ethereal figure huddled in shadows. Grandfather? A hand, pale and bony, emerged from the glass to draw circles on it as if writing. A name I recognized, Lily. In the mirror's reflection, my own face was smudged by crimson fingers with crimson ink. Sarah leaned forward, her eyes gleaming for the first time since this began. We shared an unsettling, silent moment before she whispered, "Lily," and vanished into the darkness. In a haze of confusion, I reached for her name on the wall in blood, as though painted by Lily herself. Sarah emerged from nothingness once more to face me, in a voice that echoed my own. "It's time." A shiver swept through me with every step she took down those stairs. As we stood before the mirror together, I couldn't help but notice. Her eyes reflected back at us in dark crimson, an echo of Lily's. It was then that Sarah turned and fled into the night, beckoning me to follow. Chapter 3. The Last Whisper. Sarah descended until the darkness swallowed both of us under the attic stairs. A hand reached out from the mirror, bony fingers red that inked like Lily long dead. I stepped through the glass, not just its reflection, on a cold floor that felt wrong and wronger still with each step. Sarah's shadowy form led me deeper into the attic until Lily emerged, her face marred by age, my eyes black as coal. An eerie version of myself in every way except age spots. She whispered, "Remember us?" The old woman's voice was a husky rasp. "I remember all. I am you." Sarah and Lily stood behind me as one shadowy form. Lily turned to face them both. Our eyes locked, their gaze haunting yet oddly familiar. I stumbled backwards. Something snapped like dry bone when I fell through the attic floor. There, in the cold night air beneath an old house, I saw Sarah's face merge with Lily's into a visage more beautiful than it was ever alive. "Lily," Sarah spoke, "you're us." In that moment of duality, she whispered something I didn't want to hear. "Don't be afraid." Lily. Sarah led me on a wild chase through my dreams and waking life, her name echoing in my thoughts until one dream merged into another when the attic door slammed behind. Trapped with no way back up, Lily. Sarah loomed before me, eyes still blacker than night, and in them, find peace. A gust carried away all I thought I knew. I awoke to Sarah's reflection staring at me. It changed in time as Lily's face materialized from the shadows behind. Another dream or nightmare? I tried walking past, but she caught my arm. "Nobody," she smiled, lips parting and closed, her gaze piercing until dawn arrived. In the fading light of night, Sarah leaned against a wall with Lily's profile painted crimson on it. The attic door above us creaked shut, an inescapable prison, the other side of a mirror. I stared at what should have been my reflection, but found Lily. Sarah instead. "The past has caught you." She reached out, and though a hand extended from the glass with long fingers and age spots, it felt too familiar when our palms touched, skin to skin, swept by an unseen force that carried me through the attic. My stomach tumbled as I emerged into a mirror's frame. Lily, Sarah on both sides, watching each other. Her gaze met mine as she parted lips once more, and my name escaped those dark orbs in a voice not mine. "Welcome home." Sarah, Lily closed their eyes. a shadow merged before me. You have come home. In this room, the world had reversed and so did I. An aged woman, face pale from age spots. Lily Sarah's form shimmered into my arms as though embracing an old friend or a part of myself long buried. The reflection of Sarah. Lily vanished in a rush of wind that carried me back through the attic door to waking in my bed, breaths labored and heart racing. In this new nightmare reality, every object seemed painted crimson red. You are us. Lily. Sarah spoke behind me as I regained footing, then whispered again. Remember, the darkness that swept Sarah. Lily up pulled me along. We tumbled into an ancient mirror on a forgotten floor, a relic of the house. In its frame, Sarah, Lily stood, and they were all in this crimson embrace now. Us, them. Welcome home. The reflection's mouth opened to say more, but faded as the light above dwindled, disappearing with it. In the end room, we clutched each other tightly, skin on skin. They spoke again in hushed tones that echoed through my dreams. You have come home. A gust swept us back up. Sarah, Lily into me, and she closed those black eyes, mouth parting as though to say more before they vanished once more. Sarah, Lily held out a bony hand and whispered, welcome home. I let go of everything to fall through the crimson glass. Back in my room after dreaming it again, Sarah, Lily's face, painted crimson, greeted me. Lily. Sarah behind her with black eyes like night, each one of them looking at the other. A gust swept us out once more, back into my bed as they turned their heads to look upon me with a smile I knew all too well. It whispered, welcome home, as if Sarah, Lily was an echo of me in this house, a part of my soul, buried long ago. I lay face up, breaths ragged as though in the attic, and when the dream faded, crimson paint coated every object in my room, each one. Lily, Sarah and I held hands, embracing, skin to skin, a smile from another time looking at me as the world around us turned red. They spoke of memories long buried, their stories intertwined with mine. They knew me before birth, through you in your house. Lily, Sarah, Lily whispered. As morning approached, crimson faded back into the dawn. I opened my eyes to find Sarah, Lily gone, a bony hand still clinging tightly to mine, our bodies entwined in a tight embrace on the floor. Lily, Sarah and I as one, skin to skin. The attic's secrets were buried deep inside me, in the places where dreams and memories often merged. The past had come home, and so did she.